Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. This is a regular session, Monday, May 21st, 2012, on or about 7:30. Pretty close. Okay. Our first action is to establish a quorum. All council members are present. That does certainly establish a quorum. Second issue is disposition of minutes. We'd like to accept the regular session of council held May 7th, 2012. We'd like to accept that set of minutes. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of acceptance of this set of minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Communications. I don't have any communications from the chair. Anybody? Council? Mayor?
Did you want to cover the auditor's report, financials?
It is listed under other items of
Okay.
business is the
No
last
problem.
agenda item.
Okay.
Debbie has not forgotten.
Let's see, communications. One, of course, there is that community meeting that will be Thursday, May 31st for the Zero Waste. Will be at the Athens Community Center. Two, I think you probably received, some of you probably received we've got an award for Safe Routes to School. That could be old news already. Some of the areas we'll be talking about doing is some of the sidewalk on the west side of middle school. Complete the missing sections on Watt Street and trying to build some sidewalk between from Central to Curran, I believe. And I think that's all I have. Oh yeah, there is going to be a planning commission meeting. We normally have it. We would normally have it last week, but we did not have quorum, so we're going to have one this week. This is planning commission, 12 o'clock on Wednesday. We'll have a case for Title 41 on Mill Street, 152 Mill Street, and that will cover all I have.
Okay. Auditor Heck?
No report.
Treasurer Mary Ann McLuhan?
Yes, I have my quarterly interest earnings report, which you all have in front of you. And the actual earnings for January through March were $18,912.31. There was an additional $37,509 in CD interest that actually happened on April 1st. That could have been March 31st. And we seem to be moving along fairly much on target. No surprises, no good news on changes in interest rates yet. So,
Questions for the treasurer? Could we have a motion to accept her report for the month of April, for the first quarter? Quarterly, is that how you want to do it?
Yes, quarterly.
Quarterly, first quarter.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All those in favor of accepting this report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Law Director Patrick.
No report, Mr. President.
Okay, we will move on to ordinances for third reading.
excuse
Or-
me, can you
I'm sorry,
do the finance report?
I think she said
it's on our
it's at the end.
agenda.
For
It's at the end of the
Back
agenda,
end.
under other business.
Okay.
Ordinance 5312, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for a Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA Fire Act grant, amending the 2012 appropriation ordinance and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to adopt this ordinance 5312.
Second.
As a quick reminder, this ordinance allows the city, we were awarded a FEMA Fire Act grant, which is for a total of $149,640, with reimbursement 90-10 split, so the city's amount would be for $14,964. This is exciting for the city and for the community. This essentially is improving our communication system, and effective communications is essential for the firefighters, their safety, other first responders, as well as the public at large. The state has built a state-of-the-art system, and this allows us to tie into that system. It will allow the purchase of 22 portable radios, 8 mobile radios with associated software and cables, 6 control point radios, 22 portable radio chargers, 8 vehicular repeaters with associated installation accessories, 8 mobile chargers and signal amplifiers and accessories as well.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting ordinance 5312 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Ordinance 5312 is approved. Ordinance 5612, an ordinance authorizing the city auditor to deposit 70% of the transient guest tax revenue collected from January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2014 into the tourism fund, introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of ordinance 5612. Thank you. And this particular change would be moving for a more even distribution of our transient guest tax into different accounts within the city's financial system. At the current time, we deposit it on a 50% basis to the tourism fund and the remaining 50% to the general fund. However, the current contracts that we have with the Athens Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Economic Development Council indicate or are based on a fact of needing 70% of that money paid to those entities. So this particular ordinance will be in effect through December 31st, 2014. That's the current period of the contract that we have with those two organizations. And so this will be it's an attempt to work towards a more even distribution of that money in the way that the contract's written to those organizations.
Thank you. All those in favor of ordinance 5612 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ordinance 5612 is approved. Ordinance 5712, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with the City of Cleveland, Ohio for services relating to the collection of income tax, also introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of ordinance 5712.
Second.
And this particular ordinance, as is indicated, authorizes an agreement between the City of Cleveland, Ohio, and they have a tax collection service, and they will be assisting us in collecting delinquent Athens income taxes, and those are delinquent ones. And you'll also note that we have a tandem ordinance going on at the same time that is going to have an amnesty program for persons during the month of June before we start the collection with this particular agency later this summer.
Any other comments about this? Mayor?
So the cost is about up to 5% of what they gather. So if they don't get anything, don't find anything, it's no money spent. It'll be money that we wouldn't see normally, I believe. I think it was pointed out that they have an executive committee, advisory board that holds this, and are they the ones we answer to, I assume, or talk to at that point in the contract here?
For CCA?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a representative that we deal with who's already come and talked to us. There'll be
Okay.
one person that we'll deal with on a regular basis.
As the liaison, okay.
Any other comments? Okay. Everyone in favor of ordinance 5712 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Ordinance 5712 is accepted. And, excuse me, last ordinance for third reading, ordinance 5812, an ordinance authorizing street paving and repairs, project number 267, introduced by Councilmember Gosney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move adoption of ordinance 5812.
Second.
Thank you. This is an ordinance that authorizes the annual street paving and rehab done in the city. This year, we're allocating $400,000 for this type of street repairs, which is a bit of an increase over last year, about a 25% increase, but it does fluctuate from year to year depending on what projects the city is undertaking. There's a tentative list of streets to be paved, and I've read that in council before. It's also available at the city council's office or the mayor's office if anyone is interested. One last note, I will not be voting on this ordinance because I realized recently that my street is a portion of one of 18 streets in which a portion is going to be repaved through this ordinance, so I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this.
All those in favor of ordinance 5812 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Ordinance 5812 is adopted. We have one ordinance for second reading. Usually ordinances up for second reading are just read. No action is taken. Ordinance 6012, an ordinance establishing the City of Athens Environment and Sustainability Commission, introduced by Councilmember Fall. We'll move on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 6312, an ordinance providing for the issuance of $500,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the costs of acquiring and constructing improvements to East State Street and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have discussed this at the Finance Committee meeting, and as a brief bit of background, the current amount that we owe on the East State Street note is $750,000. We'll be paying off $250,000 of that, and so this particular ordinance is for the issuance of notes for the remainder of the balance, the $750,000 minus the $250,000. So that's the remainder of what we have. Council members have an attached copy tonight of the ordinance and the text of that provides the details for it. The percentage interest rate that we'll be paying is 0.4%, so that's a wonderful rate to have, and I want to thank the auditor for working on that for us. So this is the first reading, and we'll be moving that on through for an additional 2 readings.
We are? Okay. Auditor, do you remember how much the East State Street cost us in the
I was
beginning?
just thinking about that. I can certainly look it up, but I want to say 20 million.
It was a bunch.
It's either like 12 or 20 million. It was quite a bit.
Okay. And
Well, anybody who remembers, yeah.
It was a lot.
It was.
And so we've been paying it down for a number of years, and we're getting close to having it paid off, at which point we can start repairing it, I guess. Okay. Ordinance 6412, an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street on Friday, June 1st, July 27th, and September 14th, 2012, for a cruise-in and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Gosney.
Thank you. I would like to move that we consider this ordinance under suspension of council rules.
Second.
Thank you. And the reason for the suspension is the first event that's part of this ordinance is scheduled for June 1st. That's coming up quite shortly.
Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The rules have been suspended. Member Gosney?
Thank you. I would like to move adoption of ordinance 6412.
Second.
And this ordinance is for a set of 3 cruise-ins, car shows to be held on Court Street throughout the summer and into next fall, June 1st, July 27th, and September 14th. And these are part of about a dozen events like this that take place in the county, some in the Plains and some in other parts around Athens. And it's something sponsored by the Plains Lions Club. And so they have sort of a car show and a social event, pretty low-key.
Do you move to accept it?
And if I did not move to adopt, I would do so now.
Okay. All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 6412 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 6512, an ordinance closing portion of Court, Union, Washington, and State Streets on Saturday, July 21st, to 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 22nd, 2012, for Boogie on the Bricks, a family music festival, introduced by Councilmember Gosney.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this ordinance is a part of 5 total ordinances for this event, and I'll explain why we have so many, but it's this one and then all the way through Ordinance 6912. This is for an annual event, Boogie on the Bricks, that most of us know, a great music event that we have here uptown with a lot of participation and involvement by local residents and many people from out of town. The big difference this year is this is not occurring with Brew Week. This is going to be separated from that event this year due to scheduling conflicts. And so this first one is to close the street. Is it possible to speak on the other ones now and just have you read the titles? Sounds
Sure.
good? Okay. So the second ordinance on this item is suspending the parking fees in the parking garage so that we will be providing free parking for this event. The third one will suspend the vending, peddling, and soliciting law in city code in order to allow food and other items to be sold there at the event. The last one, or the fourth one, would be suspending the noise ordinance in the downtown area because we anticipate quite a bit of music to be occurring there. And the last one is to establish a glass-free drinking zone, a glass-free drinking container zone, just to help ensure safety of people that attend the event. We had a question in committee about recycling, and they will be encouraging use of reusable plastic cups that they will be selling. I forget the exact amount they'll cost, and there will also be recycling containers at the event.
Okay. Mayor, did you?
Nothing to add.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the ordinances that Member Gosney was alluding to. Ordinance 6612, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Title 7, Section 7.05.26B1, City Garage Metered Parking Rates and Regulations on Saturday, July 21st to 1 a.m. Sunday, July 22nd, 2012 for Boogie on the Bricks, a family music festival. Ordinance 6712, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on July 21st and 22nd, 2012 during Boogie on the Bricks, a family music festival. Ordinance 6812, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Section 13.04.10, unnecessary noise in the downtown area on July 21st, 2012 for Boogie on the Bricks, a family music festival. And finally, Ordinance 6912, an ordinance establishing a glass-free drinking container zone during the Boogie on the Bricks Family Music Festival on Saturday, July 21st to 1 a.m. Sunday, July 22nd. Any further questions or comments at this time? We'll move on to Ordinance 7012, an ordinance granting renewal of a revocable license to Michael Holbrook, owner, Muffler Man, 219 Columbus Road, to allow the replacement of the face panel on an existing sign on the city right-of-way, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this says, this is a renewal of a revocable license on the city right-of-way. This is a way that the city makes sure that what happens on their right-of-way pertains to code and insurance liability. And it's for 10 years. All paperwork has been signed off by various city administration.
Questions, comments? Ordinance 7112, an ordinance granting renewal of a revocable license to Demetrius Prokos, owner, 80 East State Street, for use of the city's right-of-way. introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Once again, Mr. President, this is a renewal for 10 years of revocable license to Demetris Prokos for use of the city right-of-way. This is, tends to be, this particular project is more sidewalks and walkways, stairways to his development.
Mayor.
And that includes a handicap access ramp.
Right.
So that's on the city right away. I think it's on the Carpenter Street side. So,
Should we list that also?
no, it's listed.
It's
Oh, in
listed,
the,
and all paperwork has
Section
been
one.
introduced
Okay.
to this.
It's a renewal.
It's a renewal.
Ordinance 7212, an ordinance authorizing improvements to city parks, introduced by Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. As short a title as this is, there is a little more detail to it than meets the eye, but this is an ordinance that will authorize the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids on the installation of a rubberized matting for the South Side Park and other parks if money allows or funding allows. It also allows for the transfer of funds from the Community Development Block Grant revolving loan fund 249 into Fund 248, which is the Community Development Block Grant, to the sum of $80,000 for said improvements.
Questions, comments? Mayor, nothing? Ordinance 7312, an ordinance declaring a real and present emergency, thus obviating the formal bidding procedure for a replacement pump at the wastewater treatment plant, introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Knowing that this is an emergency, I would like to request that we suspend the rules.
Second. All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 7312 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 7312.
Second.
And I'll share the precarious details of this precarious situation. There are two pumps at the wastewater treatment plant, the influent pumps. One of them has failed. According to Andy Stone, our Public Works Director, if the other were to fail, there's a potential for sewage to be backing up into the east side basements. Additionally, this is a quote, these are probably some of the most important pieces of equipment in the city of Athens. A little history here. They were installed in the late 80s, and they've been working really well and efficiently ever since. And we have, as many of you are aware, we have a multi-million-dollar project coming up to enhance the wastewater treatment plant. We were hoping, Public Works Director was hoping to wait till those, that project was underway to make the replacement for the pumps, but this situation was unexpected and thus requiring an immediate attention.
The rules have been suspended. The ordinance has, we do have a move and a second to approve this. All those in favor of approving ordinance 7312 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ordinance is accepted. Resolutions for third reading. R 0312, a resolution declaring it necessary to replace existing sidewalk and curbs deemed in poor condition and complete drainage improvements as part of the Grosvenor Slip Project 238 and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Gosney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution and the one after it are part of an effort to improve sidewalks in the city. I would like to move adoption of Resolution 312.
Second.
This first resolution is a resolution of necessity. It's the first step in a multi-step process to do what's called a sidewalk assessment, in which the city arranges for the renovation and repair of existing sidewalks or installation of new sidewalks in some cases, through a process that involves charging property owners for their portion if they choose to have the city complete the work. And then the city also pays a share of this cost. The city is responsible for curbs and curbs and wastewater, not wastewater,
Handicap ramps.
handicap ramps, stormwater runoff is the word I was looking for. So it's a joint project between property owners and the city in this case. This resolution is part of the Grosvenor Slip project, so this includes sidewalks on Grosvenor Street, and it's part of that major renovation of a big part of Grosvenor Street that's hopefully going to be completed this summer.
All those in favor of Resolution 0312 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The resolution is adopted. Resolution 0412, a resolution declaring it necessary to replace existing sidewalk and curbs deemed in poor condition on portions of East State Street, Morris Avenue, Grosvenor Street, and Franklin Avenue as part of the North Court Area Infrastructure Project 259 and declaring an emergency. Also introduced by Councilmember Gosnell.
Thank you. I would like to move adoption of ordinance, that we consider Resolution 412 for adoption.
Second.
This resolution, like the one before it, is declaring that certain sidewalks in the city are in need of repair. And I forgot to mention in the previous one, the city completed a bicycle and pedestrian master plan with a lot of input from citizens a few years ago. And that's a master plan in which we look for ways to improve the ability to bicycle or to walk around in the community to get to and from work or stores or anything else. And so this is part of a year-by-year process of improving our city infrastructure to make sure that it's safer and more amenable to those types of alternative transportation.
Mr. President, I'm going to recuse myself from this particular voting on this particular resolution since I live on Morris Avenue, and the little spray painted marks are in front of my house, so I will have my sidewalks done as part of this process.
All those except Member Fall who approve adoption of Resolution 0412 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Finally, we have a one-reading resolution, Resolution 0712, a resolution supporting the tentative award of a contract for construction of the 2012 water system improvements, Project 264. The improvements Councilmember Butler was just speaking about, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move to adopt this particular resolution.
Yes, sir.
Second.
If you recall, we've been discussing this water line project, I believe, since maybe February or March. And if the details to help jog everyone's memory is replacing 1950s era cast iron water lines within the city. So we're looking at a total of over 8,000 feet of replacement line, additionally including 17 new fire hydrants. Essentially, this resolution is acknowledging from the legislative body to the Ohio Water Department Authority that we're supportive of this process and moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of Resolution 0712 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The resolution is adopted. Next on our agenda are announcements and other business. The first announcement, we have a motion. We need to ask for a motion to accept the April 2012 financial reports as submitted by the auditor. Could I have a motion to accept, please?
I motion to accept the...
I second.
Okay. Auditor, did you have something to say?
Well, I just want to point out that this is not something that I'm asking you to do, throwing it out there every time because I want to hear you do it. This was at the request of our state auditors about 5 years ago. They want to see this in the minutes. They were just here last week. When they come, they absolutely go through Debbie's minutes and look for this approval. And so that's why it's important. And it's important why I've asked it to be put on the agenda is so that we don't get behind and lose track where we are if we miss it, because these only come out once a month. They don't need to be on there twice a month, so we just have to make sure that they're on there, and the reports come out pretty quickly after the end of the month before, within a week. I think it was like the 3rd of May this year. And so there should be enough time for anybody who wants to review them before they're approved in the next month after they come out. So these are April's reports.
These reports are always on view in council office. Are they online through you also? They're emailed?
Yeah, they're emailed to Debbie. The auditor's office has separate drive
Okay.
and server
And then
system.
you send them to each council member?
can't.
So, okay, everybody gets them.
Yeah, we can't post them to something that's accessible citywide because of firewalls and stuff to protect our financial software.
So,
But I can send them to anybody. You know, we have them, and they're emailed to Debbie. So if anybody wants them, Debbie could forward.
Yes.
okay, although, I'm sorry.
We get copies of it as well, the administration, and, you know,
Right.
tells us where the
Mayor
status is
gets
of everything.
everything that I get all of them, council gets all of them, and we send quite a few reports, partial reports to all the department heads, whatever, is relevant to their program, their department. But anything anybody wants, we can forward also.
these are important reports, and so.
And as I said, council
So,
does get all the reports.
We
that
have a motion and a second to accept your report. All the council members, all those in favor of accepting this report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The report has been accepted. Announcements and other business. Member Gosnell?
I do have an announcement. Mayor, I think you forgot to mention this. On Thursday, there will be a Go Bus event at the community center at 11:30. It's to celebrate and recognize their achievements, and they've been recognized by the Ohio University and the Ohio Association of Community Action Agencies for their work on managing this transportation system for the community. So.
I believe almost everybody you talk to, it's been great. You know, it's beyond expectations in terms of servicing our area. I've talked to people who normally wouldn't come down here from Columbus, actually, and it's $10, and they just jump on the bus and go. Same thing with Cincinnati. It's been picking up pretty much every month. And again, I know they actually have almost some growing pains because they have to supply enough buses to do that. But yes, I forgot about that entirely. Sorry. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody wish to schedule a committee meeting for next week? Number 5? Probably.
Finance and personnel.
Which will be on Tuesday?
Thank you for the reminder.
Tuesday, yes.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Okay. So we had finance and personnel. And other committees, if you think you have issues, please let Debbie know, and she'll put them on the agenda. Okay. Mayor, did you have anything else to add? Now we have opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on our agenda this evening. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Okay. We'll move on to adjournment. We are adjourned at 8:04.